Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. The big stories tonight. After President Duterte barred PSG troops from attending any congressional inquiry into their unauthorized vaccination, the Armed Forces of the Philippines calls off its investigation on the smuggled vaccines. PhilHealth also holds its contribution rate hike after the chief executive ordered its deferment. The House is open to reviewing the provisions of the Universal Healthcare Act. Only 1 out of 4 Metro Manila residents are willing to get vaccinated, says a December survey of the OCTA research team. This as LGUs earmark millions of funds to inoculate their residents. As senators back the filing of a bill that will revive ABS-CBN's franchise, their counterparts in the lower chamber say the measure should start from within their homes. And the PNP declares the death of flight attendant Christine Dacera a closed case, even without complete medical findings. 8 persons of interest remain at large. We begin tonight with mixed reactions from lawmakers on President Duterte's warning against investigations into the PSG's unauthorized inoculation. But the AFP was more than willing to oblige the chief executive. They canceled their own investigation into the matter. Ryan Ang with the big story.
The AFP called off their scheduled probe on the unauthorized vaccination of some PSG personnel. This after President Duterte himself defended the security staff.
Base sa statement na pinalabas ng ating Pangulo, ang ating Commander-in-Chief, bago maghating gabi kagabi, ay nagdesisyon po siya na i-call off na itong investigation na ito sapagkat malinaw ng po sinasabi ng ating Pangulo na wala nang pangailangan, na hindi na niya pinapayuhan na dumalo sa investigasyon ang miyembro ng Presidential Security Group, and they will invoke.
In a Monday night meeting, Duterte ordered the PSG not to attend any congressional hearing or at least stay mum. He also warned of a crisis between the executive and legislative branches should lawmakers look into the unauthorized vaccination.
Para sa akin, it is a matter of preservation. Do not force my soldiers to testify against their will.
Senate President Tito Soto clarifies this was never in their agenda. He says the Senate hearing next Monday will focus on the country's vaccine roadmap. But Senator Dick Gordon did not like the president's warning.
I was disturbed by it, quite frankly. To shackle the Senate or the Congress into not doing what it's supposed to do, I think is a wrong thing to do by the president.
While she respects Soto's decision not to summon the PSG, Senator Risa Ontiveros says it's their duty to get to the bottom of the issue, especially vaccine source. Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon thinks the president is using his executive privilege. He insists that Congress has the power to investigate in aid of legislation. And if the PSG will not attend hearings, lawmakers can get information from other source persons. But regardless of the president's word, the National Bureau of Investigation will continue its probe on the unauthorized use of COVID-19 vaccines. Spokesperson Attorney Ferdinand Lavin says the order of Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara still stands. Lavin believes the president's warning was only against congressional probes.
Ito ay in general, vaccination in general. So, maalala nyo, meron ding statement si Madam Teresita Angsi. So, this is covered by that. Yung vaccination ng POGO workers.
The NBI says they will reach out to PSG Chief Jesus Durante III through the AFP. The NBI will also reach out to the Bureau of Customs to know whether there had been importation or reported smuggling of vaccines. For News 5, Ryan Ang, We Are One News.
Small groups like the Presidential Security Group may use an unregistered product via a so-called compassionate special permit from the Food and Drugs Administration. In a televised briefing, FDA Director General Eric Domingo said under a CSP, groups may get vaccinated even without emergency use authorization. But he told Philstar.com that it will not apply retroactively in the case of the PSG.
naintindihan naman po natin yung importance po no, ng what they do, and there's a safe way to do it if kung gusto po nilang gawin.
Meanwhile, regarding Pfizer, Domingo told Radio 5 that its EUA in the Philippines may be released next week. AstraZeneca will follow suit after securing one from Britain. Another Western vaccine developer, meanwhile, is expected to apply for an EUA this week.
Right now, we're expecting in a day or two, I believe, another Western company to apply for an EUA. Let's hope that they will, because that's the declaration of Yusek Domingo himself and Secretary Galvez.
Local governments in Metro Manila are already setting aside huge sums for the free inoculation of their constituents. But will they be able to directly procure the shots? JC Cosico tells us.
Over 50,000 residents of Manila have pre-registered so far for the city government's free COVID-19 shots. One of them is City Hall employee Leslie Reyes. She goes out for work daily and is wary of the risk of contracting COVID-19 and infecting her family.
From the start, takot kami kasi hindi pa ako sigurado kung talagang okay yung vaccine. Pero lagi ko rin iniisip na lamang ang may bakuna.
The city government allotted 250 million pesos to procure COVID-19 vaccines. Health workers and senior citizens will be prioritized. Over in San Juan, 50 million pesos has been allocated for the shots. Mayor Francis Zamora says that should be enough for their 122,000 residents. Over 4,000 have already signed up in their online portal.
Kung bumuo tayo, halimbawa ng 20,000 o 30,000 o kahit sabi mong 50,000 names, ito po ang ating mga papagpilian muna na bakunahan. Bakit ko sinasabing papagpilian? Sapagkat meron po tayong prioritization list base po sa IATF.
Pasig City has also set aside 300 million pesos for inoculation.
Depending on the availability of the supply, we can easily augment this number. Wag po tayong matakot sa bakuna, at alam naman natin na tinitingnan to ng mga eksperto natin. As long as we have FDA approval, there's really nothing to fear.
Other cities also set aside a portion of their budgets for the vaccine, with the cities of Quezon, Taguig, and Makati earmarking the biggest funding at 1 billion pesos. Makati Mayor Abby Binay told One News the chiefs that they are to give shots to 500,000 residents.
With my conversation with Sec Charlie, I've already told him that they are currently under talks with Pfizer. So sabi ko kay Sec, ako sasabay din po ako ng order for Pfizer. So sabi niya, sige ma'am, ongoing pa yung negotiations. So whether it be, I told him, sir, gusto ko po Pfizer, gusto ko po Janssen, gusto ko po AstraZeneca.
Navotas residents likewise preferred Pfizer, said Mayor Toby Tiangco.
That's why I requested a meeting with the national government is para malaman ano ba yung tinutumbok nilang bilhin na vaccine. Kasi kung hindi naman naayon dun sa kagustuhan ng residente namin, we might have to allocate a bigger budget.
In an interview with 1PH Totoo Lang, Interior Undersecretary Epimaco Densing said it's better for LGUs to coordinate with the government.
What is definite is ang initial na order manggagaling sa national government at sasabay na lang kumbaga ang mga local governments, yung mga nakapag-budget po.
According to the Food and Drug Administration, LGUs have to communicate with the Health Department if they wish to procure vaccines. This as the national government has the sole authority to purchase vaccines with emergency use authorization. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
PhilHealth has decided to maintain the status quo on its contribution rate following orders from President Duterte. PhilHealth President Dante Giran says the 3% premium rate and the 60,000 peso income ceiling will remain in place. That's pending a new legislation deferring the scheduled contribution hike this year. House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco says they are ready to review provisions under the Universal Healthcare Act which warrants the mandatory hike. He is urging the Health Department to work closely with Congress to tackle any possible amendments. PhilHealth, however, still has some balance to settle with the Philippine Red Cross. Senator Richard Gordon is flagging the health insurer's outstanding 800 million peso debt. Gordon, who chairs the PRC, says they may be forced to stop COVID-19 testing again if PhilHealth fails to settle its dues. PhilHealth already made a partial payment of 600 million pesos last year.
We will be forced to stop, and you will really affect the testing program, and you'll have more virus spread. They have survived for the last several years, for the last several months. Na pwede naman nilang bayaran pero hindi nila binabayaran. Yun ang problema.
We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns. A suspect in the death of flight attendant Christine Dacera has spoken up as the PNP declares her death case closed even without complete medical findings. And half of Metro Manila residents are not interested in getting vaccinated against COVID-19. The details later. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. A suspect in the death of a 23-year-old flight attendant has come forward to give his version of the events surrounding her death. Authorities, meanwhile, are still trying to get a hold of 8 others still free, even as police deem the case closed. Camille Samonte reports.
Several speculations on the rape-slave case of Christine Dacera are now circulating on social media. One of the considered suspects in the case tells us his version of the incident. Gregorio de Guzman says he was just invited by a friend of Christine to attend a year-end party in City Garden Grand Hotel in Makati on December 31. It was the first time he met Christine, a 22-year-old cabin crew. Gregorio says they were having fun drinking and partying at room 2209. Before falling asleep around 4 a.m. on January 1, he saw Christine still awake with other friends in the room. Around 12 in the afternoon, they found her unconscious at the bathtub of the hotel room.
Inumpisa ako mag-CPR. Sa bandang isip ko, bakit ayaw niyang gumising? Nahihirapan na ako, tumutuyo na yung bibig ko. Naalala ko, malambot pa siya. Naalala ko nung binuhat namin siya gamit yung kamay niya, yung arms niya, palabas ng tub, warm pa siya. Kaya kala ko masasave ko pa siya.
Gregorio claims the hotel staff did not help them immediately. Instead, they were told to bring Christine to the hospital. Makati police say the CCTV footage at the hotel showed that other guests from the party left immediately.
Si Christine, nung binaba daw siya, binaba pa siya sa sinipr siya tapos binaba siya. Parang 4 na friend pa niya, 4 pa sila mag-friend. Tsaka yung security manager, tumawag na sila sa Makati Med. And then, itong dalawa lang naiwan, yung dalawa, kumuha ng taxi, bibat na. The rest ng mga umalis na hotel ng earlier than usual, you know, you're supposed to enjoy the party, di ba? Papahinga ka. Pag nasa hotel ka, you usually use the time given to you until 12. You ask for extensions, umalis sila.
Gregorio says he was among those who did not leave the hotel immediately. After checking out from the hotel, they went to the police station to give their statement. Eventually, he was allowed to go home after leaving his contact details. He denied allegations that he is hiding and is guilty of raping Christine.
Absurd po. Paano mo naging rape? Bakla po ako. Never po ako nakipagtalik sa babae ever in my life. Kasi hindi po ako tinatayuan. Hindi ako natuturnan ng babae. Doon po sa room na yun, alam ko po lahat sila bakla. Nagpakilala sila. Some of them, nakilala ko na before kasi alam kong bakla sila.
Dacera was declared dead at the Makati Medical Center due to aneurysm, but the Makati police says Christine's autopsy report will be used as a basis for what happened. Initial autopsy reports showed Christine had sustained injuries in her arms and legs. Her drink that night was also found to have been spiked.
Hindi, lalaki pa din sila. May instinct yan and you're, lalo na if you're, di ba, under the influence of intoxicating alcohol. Tapos kung meron pang presence of drugs yan, di lalo na.
They are still waiting for the final autopsy report on the victim's body. But even without that, the PNP in a Facebook post already declared the case closed. The police also disclosed the names of the 11 suspects or persons of interest who were with Dacera during the party. 3 of the suspects were charged for rape with homicide. 8 of them are still at large and are subjects of follow-up operations. Gregorio's mother is asking for fair investigation.
Sana maging fair lang ang laban. Huwag tayo, yung nag-expect kami na sana may fair play dito. Wag naman, yeah, we're seeking justice too for Tin. We don't know what happened to her talaga.
The Makati police say the hotel management should also be held accountable. The tourism department has already issued the hotel a show-cause order. The DOT says the hotel should not have accepted leisure guests in the first place since it serves as a quarantine facility. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Christine's loved ones are recalling fond memories with her, especially as she fulfilled her dream of becoming a flight attendant. Her family's lawyer now is casting doubt on the autopsy report about her untimely death. The details in Jenny Dongon's report.
Christine took up media arts at the University of the Philippines, Mindanao, where she graduated cum laude. Aside from excelling in academics, she also participated in beauty pageants. But her ultimate goal is to become a flight attendant. Sharon recalls how her daughter left her hometown in General Santos City and lived alone in Manila to fulfill her dream.
Kasiyahan lang po sana ng anak ko na ang dream niya yung kami na magkakasama na kapatid niya tsaka tatay niya tsaka pamilya niya na makatour kami around doon. Kaya gusto niya talaga maging flight attendant.
Her best friend Rhea says Tin, as they fondly call her, always prioritizes her family. She says Tin is also easy to get along with.
Sobrang jolly niya kasi as a person. Masaya kasama. Yung tipong kahit ipapakilala mo siya sa iba mong kasama, hindi ka mahihiya kasi marunong talaga siyang makisama. Tapos yung kaibigan na maaasahan.
Rhea recalls her chat with Tin on New Year's Eve starting at 9:23 p.m. She says their exchange went on until 12:45 a.m. But little did Rhea know that it will be their last conversation.
Sabi ni Christine, naka-check-in kami ngayon sa hotel daw sa may Makati. Tapos sabi ng boyfriend ko, ay wow, sino mga kasama mo dyan? Ganon. Tapos sabi niya na, ay mga bakla, tapos kasamahan daw sa work. Tapos sabi ng boyfriend ko na, hala, baka mapano ka dyan. Tapos sabi niya, negats, day, mas babae pa to sa akin.
On the morning of January 1, Rhea received a call from Tin's acquaintance. She could not wrap her head around the abrupt news that her BFF was already dead.
Alam mo talaga kung sinong gumawa sa'yo nito. Yun lang, tulungan mo kami. Kung sino man talaga yung gumawa sa'yo, wag mong patulugin, pakonsensya mo, Tin. Or sana magpakita siya sa amin, sabihin na niya yung totoo. Kasi hindi na namin mababalik din na wala ka na. Wala na. Let's face the fact na wala ka na. Tulungan mo na lang kami for your justice.
In a press conference earlier, the Dacera family says Christine was only supposed to celebrate New Year's Eve with 3 friends in their hotel room. But 9 men from room 2209 and 7 from room 2207 joined their celebration. The Dacera family's lawyer, Brick Reyes, cast doubts on Christine's autopsy.
What kind of an autopsy is this? Why did you not specify the other injuries? So, if you look closely at the medical legal of Dr. Sarmiento, it is not complete as far as we're concerned.
Reyes says they're requesting for another autopsy. While they believe that aneurysm may have caused her untimely death, drugs found in her body may indicate foul play and that she was sexually assaulted. Sharon could not hold her emotions over this violent possibility, on top of those blaming her daughter for being the sole woman in the party.
Ano bang karapatan nyo para babuyin at patayin ang walang kalaban-laban na babae na nag-iisa? Anong karapatan nyo?
PAL Express, which employed Christine, remembers her as an upstanding and professional crew member. The airline says it's desiring for the truth to come out in the interest of justice. They will extend full support to the Sarah's family. For News 5, Jenny Dongoni, We Are One News.
The recent arrest of suspected members of the Moro National Liberation Front in Rizal will not in any way affect peace talks, says the armed forces. This comes after the MNLF denied that the arrested individuals are members of their organization. Footage obtained by News 5 show the supposed training of the alleged MNLF troops at a camp in Barangay Ginayang, San Mateo, Rizal. 35 were arrested, while two .45 caliber guns as well as an MNLF flag were retrieved from the suspects. They're now facing charges for illegal possession of firearms, among others. AFP spokesman Edgar Arevalo says this is an isolated incident. And these are the other big stories tonight. Inflation has picked up to 3.5% in December from 3.3% the month before. This is the quickest rate recorded since March 2019. The higher clip was mainly due to elevated prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages, as well as higher transport costs. Last month's CPI brings the 2020 full-year inflation at 2.6%, higher than the recorded rate in 2019. This is still within the government's 2 to 4% target. And only 1 in 4 residents of Metro Manila are willing to get inoculated against COVID-19. That's according to a December survey by the OCTA research team. 47% are still undecided if they will get vaccinated. 28% say they have no interest at all to get the shots. Willingness to get inoculated is highest among middle to upper income groups, or classes A, B, and C, while those who are unwilling are from classes D and E. We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns. A lawmaker in the lower house says reviving ABS-CBN's franchise will not be a walk in the park. He says the move has to start in their chamber. And an American man got more than his essentials during a grocery run. He got immunized against COVID-19, or so he claims. The details next. Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. As the Senate started the ball rolling for ABS-CBN's franchise bid, a lawmaker from the lower house says the ball is still in their hands. Ria Fernandez tells us more.
Backed by several senators, Senate President Tito Soto filed on Monday a fresh bill seeking to once again give life to ABS-CBN's legislative franchise. But a counterpart in the lower house is not too keen on the move. House Franchise Committee Vice Chairperson Mike Defensor reminds lawmakers that all franchise bills must emanate from the lower chamber.
So ano yung gagawin nilang batas, di ba? It should be based on what we have done.
In a text message to News 5 Monday night, Deputy Speaker Vilma Santos Recto said she will refile her bill seeking to grant the Kapamilya Network a fresh 25-year license. But this is not foolproof. Defensor says the process to revive the media giant's franchise talks is a complicated one. He says the original bills remain laid on the table and that the plenary has yet to vote on their committee report that junked ABS-CBN's franchise bid in July last year.
Ang process dapat, kung gusto nila mangyari yung mag-file sila ng bagong bill, lahat ng authors na original na nag-file dito, mag-withdraw. So wala na yung bill and then they can refile. But if they want to address the current bill, ang kailangan nilang gawin ay magkaroon ng motion for reconsideration.
A motion for reconsideration is the way to go, at least for Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza.
I would want to go back and rectify the fault of Congress, which I call a mistrial.
Atienza is confident that the new leadership under Speaker Lord Velasco will be fair.
Bago na Speaker ngayon, I don't see it in the character of Speaker Velasco to give us a double talk, possibly even a double cross.
For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Now time for the big stories in sports. A look at the game with Paulo Del Rosario.
Thanks, Robbie. In the NBA, the Indiana Pacers outlast the New Orleans Pelicans in an overtime thriller that came down to a last-second shot, 118 to 116. Malcolm Brogdon put the cherry on top of his 21-point and 11-assist performance with a game-winning floater, 2 seconds left in the overtime period. The Pacers sparks a 6-point comeback in the final seconds of regulation and carries the momentum all the way through overtime. The Indiana Pacers improved to a 5-2 record and will host the Houston Rockets Thursday morning Manila time. Catch all the NBA regular season action on NBA TV Philippines. In boxing, meanwhile, first Filipina boxing Olympian Irish Magno shares there are plans to send the country's boxers to Thailand for a special training camp. The game...
sa confidence ko sa sarili namin, sir, before po yung fight po. Kasi nakakapag-spar po kami sa iba-iba po kasi, sir, kahit nasa Thailand kami, madami po kasi silang boksingerang babae po. Kaya iba-iba po yung mga nakakaspar namin, iba-iba everyday po, iba-iba po yung natututunan po namin na technique, tactics na nakukuha po sa mga coaches din po nila. Kaya malaking tulong po yun.
That's it for the latest in the world of sports. Catch us later at 9:30 p.m. on One News and One Sports Plus. My name is Paulo Del Rosario. This has been The Game. Back to you, Robbie.
Thanks, Paulo. Now, imagine going for a grocery run and then coming out of the supermarket already immunized against COVID-19. This was exactly the experience and the claim of a law student in Washington. While grocery shopping, a worker at the supermarket's pharmacy section offered David McMillan and his friend shots, supposedly, of Moderna's vaccine. In his TikTok video, McMillan says they were offered the shots after frontline workers who had appointments to get vaccinated did not show up. Moderna's shots have very cold temperature requirements and may spoil if they stay too long at room temperature. To avoid discarding the valuable shots, the pharmacist decided to offer the vaccine to anyone willing to get immunized against COVID-19. McMillan now expects his second dose later this month. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, you can visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.